Yeah, hi guys. Hi guys, and I'm gonna do this video live today. And I'm just this is the first time this is the first time I this is the first time I'm doing this live today with you guys, and I hope you guys can share this video. But basically, I thanks for staying in touch with us, and thanks for being here once again. I'm gonna do this in English now, and I'm gonna do it in Spanish later. So probably I will do the same thing. As you guys know, I've been talking about this project, and especially about this political movement going on in through this continent, and that's why it's really important for me, like, to express what was going on. And the other thing too about the book, it's the first time I'm live at the YouTube today. And this is the book, guys. Thanks for subscribing, and thanks for uh, being tuned in to this channel. And thanks, I think we have one person watching. I have no idea where he's watching, but I think we should say something later. So yeah, this, and which is what's going on in Bolivia too. Those all this coup, like, which is they throw out Evo Morales as last three weeks. And so it is so important that we can have an idea, because this social media, it has an impact today, because most of this big broadcast or TV stations, they run by big corporation. They ban with either side, even like all this in Venezuela. Those the opposition, they are accusing Evo Morales that they have no rights. They have no rights about what is going on between all this with the TV network. And the same thing too. Evo Morales, he's been, I mean, Maduro, they complain about the international broadcast, which is CNN, and they always like, yeah, this it's a bias. So CNN is against Venezuela, against Maduro. He's talking trash about all this movement going on. And then same thing with the national TVs, which is run by the state of Venezuela. And same thing too. They complain that all the opposition, like, yeah, the national TV broadcast is focused on the government. It's not the reporting what the issues that they having on the street, the people. So that's why it's so important to this social media that we can express ourselves, that we can uh, somehow define our thoughts, like what we think, what we see, or and based on our social medias. Because I see a lot of international news. I see Fox News, which is extremely right news at the based in United States, and I see the Russian TV too, the RT, and I see the Al Jazeera, and I see the national TVs even in Mexico too. I see those corporation, or but we see some like friends on Facebook or Instagram or Twitter. Some people like you, like me, they doing broadcast live, and that ways we making another point of view, like what's going on, like we see in Bolivia, like uh, all these journalists, they didn't report what was going on. When Morales were trying to send the message to the people, they didn't let them do they didn't let them do it. So, but so many people, they have Facebook, they were live streaming. So that's why we saw what we saw in Bolivia today. But the main point of the Bolivia, well, that's why I'm talking about here. I think Evo Morales made a mistake, make a huge mistake, and I think I did a video about him. I think like 4 months ago, talking about the referendum that he did on 2016, because this is the third time that he's being elected, under their constitution, because they have the right constitution. So under their constitution, he got elected 3 times. So he was seeking for the 4th time. So that was the problem, because at the referendum, most of the people, they weren't agreed that he should run for a 4th time or 4th term. So I think it was like 52 or 55%. So that's why he couldn't run again. But he fixed it with this electoral college and this all these those different branch of government that he runs. Maybe he didn't run like have control in it. There is an independence branch of government, but they agree and they agree like constitutionally Evo Morales should run for the 4th time. And I think he has a right too, because he's as a citizen and he has a project. And as you know, Bolivia has grown like I think the most I think one of the most popular government in our America today. That he received a country under poverty like 60%, and then he lifted the poverty to 40%, and then there is still something left, because you can't, after 500 years of the colonialism that they've been here in Venezuela, in Bolivia, it is hard to make change in 10 years, 20 years, 14 years after, like I say, 500 years that the colonial criollos, they've been in power in Bolivia. But he lifted Bolivia in the good standard of living, and the good standard of wage for working class people, and the good standard with those enterprises, with those companies that where they were making huge money under neoliberalism policies. That Evo Morales nationalized the gas production. That was he saying, when the production was high, it wasn't belong, the company wasn't belong to the Bolivian people. It was belong to those international companies. So that's why he nationalized all this production of gas, especially in Santa Cruz. And that's the other point too. As you will see, Luis Alejandro Camacho, I think the new, I think one of this racist and extremist opposition, that he took a lead against Evo Morales about the 4th-time turn unconstitutionally, which is he won the 1st time, and then he was trying to go the 2nd time, because they tried to cancel the election thing, because they were like announcing fraud. And then there's like the states, the Organization States of the Americas, which is OAS, which is he played a main role in all this mess and all this coup that overthrew Evo Morales. They were like investigating with some irregular things that were happening, but then before they present formally and those informed, they say like, oh well, yes, there was fraud and this, that, and that. So that's all this opposition. They overcome violence under a Bible too, which is a Bible which is really interesting, that Luis Camacho hold this Bible. This is the Bible that even they call it like American, like Bibles of the Americas, which is one of the first book which is I read. It was the Bible, and which is, has a good message. I see this like the story of a fight against the capitalism. Since the Jesus Christ, he was killed. Since the Jesus at his time back then, like 100 years ago. Remember, because one of the most image that the human being today like have an image of Jesus Christ is like the Son of God, but which is, I mean, I don't believe in God, because I'm a Maya. I have done video about it before, which is our Maya culture. We believe in the heart of our land. We live in the heart of our water, in the heart of our sun, the moon, the all the air. That's the nature, the mother nature. That's the one that gives us life, that gives us all this pleasure, that the how beautiful life it is. But when the European come here, they start talking about God. They start talking about the Bible. They start talking about like we shouldn't be violent and we should do good for our community, because one day if you act good, if you have a good banner, that you can go to another better life, or we'll go to the hell, which is the devil and the and God, which is I think it is fake. I think there is no God, there is no devil. The only thing that has is the people, like we saw in Bolivia, like they were holding the Bible against and killing our indigenous people. And which is like there's a passage here, which is I read, and I think it's in Spanish. I think I will read it in Spanish, and then maybe I'm going to translate to the English. So, but it says here, I think Isaiah 5, and I don't know how to read this, but I read it, but just like reading a regular book, which is I went through like page to page, and I find out interesting because this is wasn't read about like God's word or God's thinking. No, it was reading by those Jesus followers, which is Jose, Juan, or Lucas, and I think 12 apostles. They were following Jesus. So that's why they write this after the Jesus was killed. So the strategic role of this Bible, that the rich people and then the power people, the government, that they were trying to have control in our society, they took this to oppress and then to calm the society so they can become to the power, because the Bible and the religions and money is part of the power. And then we're being, I mean, there's so many religions too. There's like church, and there's the all these like Mormons and other religions, which is interesting. But I'm gonna read this like it says in Spanish, like, pobres de ustedes que compran todas las casas y van juntando campo, así que no quedará más lugar, a solo quedarán ustedes en este país. Basically, like poor, you poor, like if you start buying house and more houses and then obtaining more land and more land, and then the only you guys that will have, you will keep the entire countries. So it is a good passage. Like it says, like really, like I don't know who did this, because I don't think Jesus didn't write this. Not God didn't write this. Did someone like some Western Occidental people like really was thinking how to dominate our society? Because I mean, it doesn't have any like, if you go to jail, if you go to the heavens, or if you go to the hell, it doesn't mean anything. But they use this in Bolivia to gain power and to kill our people. And the other thing too, it was the huipala, the flags, which is it's really interesting because I've been saying that the flags and the money and all the borders, that's the thing dividing us as a human being. The flags identifies each country, but those flags, it was founded by those ex-colonial that they founded like a country, like the United States, or like the Mexican states, or the Republican states in Central America, or the Republican states in South America. So each group they found a country with a flag. So those flags represents the criollos. Those flags represents the European interest in our America. So that's why the Huipala flag, which is one of the indigenous or the Incas flag, which has been around since like 100 years ago. Because I mean, the Huipala flag is not just for Bolivia; it's for Peru, Venezuela, Ecuador, and then Chile. This is like those Andean countries that they identify themselves with the Huipala flag, which is this this flag. I'm gonna show it here, which is this flag that they represents the peoples. Is this? These flags represents those colors represents power, unity, thoughts, and represents the land. Represents the Mother Earth, the nature, the respect, the power, the civilizations. So that's why they represent this. And then the Pachamama. The Pachamama, I think in Inca's language, is the land. It's the soul that we live in it. It's just so crazy that Luis Camacho says in his when they enter to the government palace in Bolivia, let's say, and his Bible in his hand, the Pachamama, he will not come in again. He's out of power. So the Bible is in our government building. That's what he says. But this one doesn't mean the Pachamama is the ground that he was standing on it. That's the ground where all these peasants that they harvest the food that we eat today. All these corn, vegetables, the water, it comes from the Pachamama. That's the other thing too. They believe in that which doesn't exist, that the imaginary guy, because they're not capable to become strong by themselves. They're not capable to become intelligent by themselves. They're not capable to be happy by themselves. So they have to find some kind of God that's going to make them happy, that they're going to make them feel good. They're not going to make them feel better, but they use the Bible and the God to make money. All this church, the Vatican, one of the richest states in our time, the Vatican. So which is the Vaticans in Europe and all these church bishops in United States, in Mexico, in Bolivia, in South America, when did they come out, say something about this Bible that they shouldn't be used to kill people under a Bible's name, under the God's name? They shouldn't be like kneeling down, praying, like God give us help, give the power. That's a bull. Sorry, but it's not for kids. It's a bullshit. That doesn't make any sense. That you pray under the Bible, you mention God, and then you order to kill people. Like Jeanne Inez, I think he was the radical religious. Now that he overthrew Evo Morales, but under the name of God, when the Vaticans, when the church, they will come out to make a statement that is not right to kill people under the name of the religions. But like I say, they use religions, and back then when the Europeans come here. So we know the story too. I mean, I probably you will see like this. So why I'm using this? I'm going to say something about this too, because I see Jesus as a human like you. It was a man, like he was fighting to all the society back then. They were suffering under Pilatus, under Caesar, under the Romanian Empire. So they were suffering about money, about gold. So one of the, I think most of you, they've seen a video of Jesus Christ when he was born. Basically, like Maria didn't get pregnant to a man or something like that. But I'm not going to dispute this. I'm not going to enter an argument of that thing. The point is, when Jesus was growing up, when he became a man, he was with the most people that they weren't have anything. Like, wasn't have any hospital. They weren't have any goods, because all the goods, all the empires, they have it. And then when I think there's a video, like I seen, like I say, like you seen the Jesus when he enters to the church, that he kicked out all the people. They were selling animals outside the church. They were selling things, because all the people they used to go to church, they give the money to the guy, to the leader, like he's in charge of the church, like we see today, like all this nonsense, diezmo or whatever. You have to pay some quart to your church, to your pastor, to those evangelical church that we have today, or even to the Christian church, like the Vatican, was the more richest church that we have today. So that Jesus Christ, he was against the religions. He was against the Bible, that they were using it to make people suffering. That's why we saw again today in Bolivia. So that's why we have those problems. But we have to create our identity. So in United States, the flag of the United States, I always say, represents the 13 colonies from the Europe. So, but first, I'm gonna make sure that I think the first states in our America, which is Bolivia, it was plurinational states. That means that all the ethnic groups, they were taking part of a republic, of a state, and their language should be used anytime, everywhere, and they should have TV broadcasts in their own language. In all the education, all the kids, they should have education in their own language, and the flag too. So that's why the other issue, the flag, the huipala, that become as a symbol, become as a symbol of a country, a symbol of Bolivia too. The same thing with the Bolivian flag. The Bolivian flag, which is Bolivian flag, which is, I'm gonna look over here, which is this flag, that is this, which is this flag, that the Bolivia flag is it's being used for the republic. This flag, this is the Bolivian flag. So that's the other dispute too. As we see all the protests, all the radical religious people, and all this Nazi neoliberalism ideas of killing people, they were waving only this flag, which is the Republic of the Bolivian flag, which is founded, I think, the centuries 17 or 18. And it has been changed. This flag has been changed like 3 times, the color. So, but represents the criollos, represents the European, represents the Republic, which is ex-colonials. So the huipala represents the huipala, they were representing the Native American people, which is this flag, the huipala. So that's what the other issue too, because as we see, the Pachamama in our native flag, the huipala, and all these radical European, they trying to trying to go become like all this coup that we see. It's not in Bolivia too. It happened in Chile and Guatemala and El Salvador, Panama, Cuba, backed by the United States. And one of the organizations that helped all this movement, all this, it was the U.S. aid. I think the United States international aid development into any country in Mexico, South America, Central America, Africa, Asia. But this organization is giving money to the oppositions. it was like CAA offices that they go to the communities and then they do some research how the community is working, how the community is organizing themselves to become as a good leader in the country, or to become to become or they can be used against, like we saw in Bolivia. So that's why there's all these flags. But today, as we see, in the Huipala is from Bolivia. So for Mayas community, they have this. We consider it as a Huipala flag too. This is the Mayas flag, which is have been centuries, which has the meaning too. The red, the yellow, the black, and the white, and this number 13, which is has a really good meaning in Maya's culture. But in the Western world, which Occidental, the number 13 is being seen like something that is not good. And then too, and then the flag of the United States too. Would you know that this is the color of the United States flag? But this is the diversity united flag, that which is we are era. Because this story of this, I think I've been explaining it to the different my videos, which is I've been talking about it, the history of this flag. And then today, the purpose of this doing this live video here is to how to create a unity, because an evolution, which we have to become, because this content now is in disputes between socialist ideas and then capitalist ideas, which is interesting what is happening now in all this movement going on in Chile, Colombia, Venezuela, Peru, and Bolivia now, which is now coming to another dispute, which is, I think there will be election coming up next time, and I hope all the basis of the Morales election, they should come together in democratic way. I think Morales and all this organization will come back to the power. But like I say, Evo Morales messed up since those referendum. But I think it's over. Now we should focus now. They will should never make a mistake again. And this is a message to Mexico too. Mexico, Lopez Obrador, they've been seeing this as some experience, how to become more stronger and stronger to make the change. So the coup, the military aggression against the people of Mexico, they will probably, I hope will happen. I hope will not happen. But if Lopez Obrador like sees this as something to learn from, and then they should start creating organization until the communities, to the states, and then nationally, and then making sure the gas productions that we have to grow. Otherwise, the economy they're gonna collapse. And then there's the dollar too. The dollar, the United States currency money made a play role to the Bolivian coup that they were paid by the United States government. We see today, I think yesterday or after yesterday, that the Evo Morales, he's showing up, and all these police commander or police chiefs, they were demanding the money they were promises to get paid, to get more pay after this coup if we succeed. Now they succeed, not totally, but at least they succeed and leaving Evo Morales out of the elections. But now the police, they demanded, okay, where's our salary? Where is the money that they guys promised? Because the military, they given them, I think, $5 million to the military. So now the police now is creating all dispute of the money, because they were being promised that after this success of the coup of this throwing out Morales, the police, they will have some increase of their salaries. But, and I think constitutionally, that the military should focus on sovereignty and those borders in each country. Those military, they shouldn't be killing their own people, our peasant people. And then like all the military people, men, like regular military. It's like they become from houses that they not rich. They become from houses not even middle class. So we have to dispute too. I hope that one day when the movement of the real democratic elected government in Bolivia, it will come back to the power, all the military should get punished, all the Jinen Inez should go to trial, into international trial, should be punished, should be prosecuted, and Luis Camacho should be punished too, because his terrorist act, that what he did in Bolivia, it was a terrorist act, and that's why we seen all these things. And about part of this book too is this, that we should create a money. I've been looking to the peso, which is a currency that been around since the colonial things here, which is 7 countries that still have peso here, which is Mexico, Chile, Colombia, Cuba, and I'm not sure which other country. But back then, Bolivia used to have peso, and Guatemala they used to have peso too. The thing is to come united, to make an economy based on our hardworking people, which is the Venezuelans doing it now. Which all this like sanction against Venezuela didn't work. Why? Because all this gas, the oil exports is not the main economy of the socialist movement now. And all this capitalism system is going to end. So the main point, like I present on this book, is create a circular economy. Is create a money to our continent, which is going to represent the United States, the Mexico, South America, Central America, with the American peso. I don't know how they're going to be without picture or something like that, but it's another dispute. But that's the point. So, because we saw in Bolivia that some of the like bodyguard of Evo Morales, they were trying to pay him $50,000. Imagine that, $15,000. I mean, it's nothing. I mean, this is just like nothing. But to the Bolivian people, $15,000 is going to be like at least 5 million Bolivian currency. So that's the corruptions. They're using the U.S. money. They're using the dollar to sell, to buy those traders, those caciques. So that's why the idea here is to create our own money, a peso americano, American peso, that which will have the same value, just like a dollar. It's 1 peso and $1. That's going to make a balance of power in our society. That's the idea of evolution. That's why I really so glad that the Evo Morales now and their people, they're not trying to take this as a arm fight against this the coup, because I think the revolution, as we see, they've been bloody. They've been with the history of the revolution through our human history, each country, each continent, they've been bloody. So we should change that. We should do an evolution, which is a dialogue, which is debating our ideas, which is defending our flags, which is creating our economy in each group. And the United Nations should be on this too. The United Nations, I think, should play a good role in making decisions and peace around the world. So the people in each continent, they become living in harmony. But as on the book too, I talk about Belize and Las Islas Islands of Falcons and Essequibo, which is still occupied by the European people too, which is the main point here too. And then the corruptions, which is I talk about here too. So that's the ideas of this book, guys. And the most important thing, I know, if we come with the universal currency, if we come with the universal movement to create a new system, I think nobody's gonna wave a Mexican flag or Central American flag or South American flag or the United States flag. So because it doesn't represent each countries. So that's why today, that's why we have this flag, which is should be the continent flags, which is you can find in our channel, which is I described, which is like here there's a 7 start here. From here it's a 7 start. 7 start, which is I find out today, like this flag is for the America, the continent, not the America that you used to. So stay tuned and copy. This is our flag from now on evolution. And the 7 stars, which is it was interesting that we pala flag that this is like squares, but it's 7 squares here, 7 squares here, 7 squares here. The total is 49 squares, different color, different meaning, 7 squares. And it was interesting too, because I find out interesting that I have seven stars here too, like from here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 stars. And this stars represents someone that give his life for our continent, for our people, which is Ernesto Guevara. He was killed in 1976 in Bolivia. Ernesto Guevara, I think it's a symbol human, the modern human, because Jesus Christ, he's a symbol for me. That's why I'm having this, because Jesus Christ represents the human struggle against the imperialism. Jesus Christ represents the fight against the justice, against the power, against the gun of this neo-Nazi, racist, supremacist power they have. So that's why I took this flag to honor this guy, to honor this flag. And this here, which is Cuba, geographically, Cuba is in here, so represents the Cuban people too, which is they've been staying strong after all this nonsense blockade, like more than 50 years. They've been blocked economically by the United States government and by the Europeans, but that's just the idea of this flag. And the other thing too, the United Nations should be more involved, like States Organization of the Americas. I don't trust them. Almagro, I think he's a racist. He's a terrorist too. So the United States, the United Nations should play a role to make all this movement, which happening today in United Council, and I think one of the basic things, the United Nations, which is the indigenous people's rights. Me as indigenous, I think we have the right to create our own economy, to create our own government. That's why the Nicolás Maduro or Chavez, they were demanding those things too in the United Nations. If we have roles that they've been proved in the United Nations, so we should use it then to keep our identity and to create a new system. So, but the thing is too, after the election, now they're gonna do election which is computerized by human. So my final thought to the Bolivian people, or to United States, Mexico, Colombia, or through all these countries, because they have election every 4 or 5 years, but they're using computers. So if we really want a democracy, count the people's vote, not the electoral college like in the United States. They don't count the people's vote. Count the people's vote by manually, not computer. There should be some kind of like each parties they have some represents on the table, and then the United Nations, and then the other independent organization in different countries. So the people's vote should be counted manually. So it's the only way we can be satisfied. Like should be no playing games after this computer, because computer is being manipulated by men. Like computer is being manipulated, and we see in Colombia, the fraud in Colombia, the fraud in Guatemala, the fraud in Mexico that I've been talking about, the fraud like it was in United States against Vice President Al Gore, like 2000, I think 2000. And the two, we have T-shirts too. we have these T-shirts. So if you guys gonna subscribe, send me an email. Is your address and the price, and you can pay it to PayPal, or we can agree like you have this flags too, which is the red represents the boina of the Hugo Chavez, the red boinas heads. So that's the live today, guys. Thank you. I appreciate that you guys tune in to our YouTube. This is the first time YouTube. I hope it will be good and see how it's going to end. But we are live too in our social media, which is Facebook. Facebook, I think there are some people like Lydia and Marcelo Marco and Maricruz Iscoy and Petro. I can't really see Irma Lep. Some of people I know say hi, guys, and thank you for being here. And like I said, we have to come together. It is time now, because this dispute and with this idea of capitalism and socialism, it is getting worse. But there is an evolution. What will happen, what will become in Bolivia, I know it will come subject to study, because the Bolivian, Evo Morales, lifted Bolivia the best economic growth, the entire continent, maybe the entire world too. So it's going to be a subject to study to the next generations. But we must become, any country, we must become plurinational countries with diversity culture, with diversity languages. In United States, they speak more than maybe 5,000 languages. In Minnesota, which is I've been living for last couple of 45 years, they speak 100 languages only in Minnesota, and all these languages should be included to the Constitution, which is the other point too. I know it's going to take time, but that's why we have diversity flag here, which is this flag, the diversity flag, which represents the black, represents the white here, and this is diversity flag. That's what it represents. And then the other thing too, the Puerto Rico. The Puerto Rico states, I think here's the star here from Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico is the star right here. So Puerto Rico is part of United States, but they don't vote to elections. So the strategically, I would like that Puerto Rico can become a republic, as the only like other republic in our continent, but we must use strategically Puerto Rico should become states of the United States. And then that's why we talk about this as bilingual languages. That's why I read this book as a bilingual language, which was written in colonial languages, as in Spanish, English, and Maya's language. So bilingual language. So that's why we must look for plurinational countries that have two flags, so that we can create peace and harmony. Everybody should be represented under one state, and everybody with their culture should be represented in any public space, speaking any language. I think we need to create a new society with speaking two languages. If you speak one language, it's fine, but have an understanding of those other ethnic people. Respect them, because they have a history, just like the Wipala flag too. Thank you, guys, and I will be back with some other topics too. And thanks. I hope you guys can share this live shots that we did today, and stay tuned in. And then I will come back in Spanish right now, right after this. Stay tuned in. I will be come back in Spanish. Thank you, guys.